Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The 100. Another great episode. I like what this is doing because it obviously coincides with Clark's whole situation getting out of Rebecca's lab. It's basically been 46 days after Prime Fire, and it's like... It's so interesting. I guess it would make sense, but I just wasn't expecting anyone to actually hear Clark when she was banging on trying to get into the underground bunker. But it's like, nope, lo and behold, it was Marcus who heard it, and Abby tried to go up there too. And in this month time, they've had their differences because it's like, he knew when he saved her that she wasn't going to be happy about him doing that, but he made the choice nevertheless. And obviously, all the crews are bumping heads together. You even have one particular lady stepping up. Her name's, Kara, because like obviously she knows what's going to go down because of the circumstances. Like, because it was originally supposed to only be Sky Crew, everything was prepared for them to survive those 5 years, but now there's too many people. Things are going to run out a lot quickly. Plus they find out like, oh, we're potentially trapped in here with no way out. So yeah, we're kind of screwed in that department. But that's kind of like, well, we got 5 years to figure something the hell out about that. But nevertheless, Sky Crew tries to take their mark, and Kara kind of leads a revolt where basically they lock themselves in with all the food and keep every other group out, which is kind of interesting considering how many people are in this bunker. And they have no way of getting inside, but because for her, it's like, this was supposed to be theirs, but Octavia screwed things up by letting all these other different people in and also kicking their people out. Because her dad died on the Ark when they were killing people to make sure that there was enough life support left for the other people to kind of keep surviving so that they could survive longer. So there's that, which ultimately, we quickly found out afterwards, I was like, oh, that was kind of for nothing. So there was that. And then there's also like the fact is her husband was one of the people kicked out during Prime Fire. So obviously she's not really a big fan of when it comes down to like rations and stuff like that, and where hard choices have to be made. She doesn't want to be on the receiving end of that type of situation. So why she decided to strike back? Because it's like, this is our people's originally anyway. So why should we have to share it with anyone else? Because the problem is, this is all like Octavia having to lead, which she doesn't think of herself as a leader. But you have Indra telling her to dress more like a commander. She wears these symbols of the commander. People will see her more as a commander. Obviously, you have people like Indra's daughter, Gaia, not seeing things that way. But it's like, because for her, it's like, well, it's because Octavia is a red blood. She doesn't have, night blood in her system like a commander should be. So it's like, I don't think, in Gaia's mind, it's like, well, not just her, many, like, you can't lead because you're not really fit. Like, obviously the commander system has existed for a very, very, very long time. So that's kind of all they live by. So it's sacred to them. So they kind of feel like, if we don't have a Nightblood commander, then like the spirits and of the past commanders won't help kind of bring everything together. So, because it's sad, because for Octavia, it is like, she has become a fighter, which is like, once again, it's crazy to think about who Octavia was from the very beginning in the series to see where she is being the Sky Ripper, But it actually took advice from Thelonious to kind of submit her mind into being the person she needs to be. It's like, because the sad thing is, being a leader, you have to make hard choices. And this is like the most extreme of situations to be under. They're trapped in this bunker, and if they do not get along, they're supposed to be one crew, but everyone is so divided. They're stealing from each other, in this particular case, trying to starve people out. Even Abby tried to tell Kara, it's like, yeah, you know what it's going to be like when people starve. It's going to be like, oh, this giving out first, then you're going to start bloating, and just, can you think about, kind of making her try to feel guilty about it. But she's like, no, if anything, it's your fault. Like, you won't blame me for these deaths, sure, but the deaths will also be on you. It's kind of interesting because she's all about saving lives and everything like that, in particular Sky Crew lives, but there's some of her Sky Crew people that are still on the other side too. I mean, because this turns immediately into because for one, they already had to cut back rations anyway. But they already had to cut rations back anyway. But on top of that, now like all the other the crews are already kind of like on like a little angsty anyway. But now finding out food has been cut off too, that just makes everyone go a little nuts. But it took like I said, Thelonious' advice was basically like, on the Ark they had one enemy, and that was death. they floated anyone that brought them closer to that enemy, because anyone who brought them closer to that enemy is an enemy themselves. It's like, he's like, that's why I killed your mom, because your mom brought us closer to that, which pissed Octavia off. But he's like, now you know what it takes to be, a commander, a leader. Like I said, it's that sad situation, because Octavia didn't want to sacrifice anyone, because from the very beginning, they're like, there are a lot of people here. We can't support all these people in that 5 years. We're all kind of starved. So it's like, how do we handle that? Well, eventually, it's not a problem today, but eventually they will have to circle back to that problem. Like, might have to start weeding out people, population control, essentially, because it wasn't initially designed. Like I said, the whole situation wasn't set up for this many people, So what really got me is the fact is, like, Octavia went in. It's like, we are one crew. If you're not with one crew, you are the enemy. And everyone that stepped to her, like true Sky Ripper, took them down, dismantled everyone in her way, covered in blood, which fits the episode title promptly, which is Red Queen, obviously because she has the blood of a Red Queen. She being the commander, but also having red blood, but also being covered in the blood of her. It's even something Gaia was like, no. You don't need armor. The blood of your enemies is your armor, because it's like, because once again, it's something that Gaia kind of picks on, but it's like, shouldn't everyone have gotten with the program immediately after all that she's done? She's proven herself so many times. Let's not forget, once again, it's something that Indra had to remind her too. It's like, to Gaia specifically, like, don't forget, it's thanks to that red blood that you're here in the first place. Because, any other commander would have been willing to sacrifice you. Because, Lexa has made that decision. What was that? Was that season 2? Where, like, Lexa was telling Clark, like, yeah, we have to let these people die just because we can't let the enemy know where we are. So, making decisions like that, which Indra knew at the time, which she was totally fine with, because that's the type of, it's like, oh, we follow our commander's, orders. If we are to die for their sake, then we die for their sake, because it's for everyone's sake type of thing. So, but it's like, Octavia saved you, so you might want to show a little more respect, so. But it's like, yo, she's the one that won the conclave. That should speak a lot. You don't step to the person who's known as a Sky Ripper and also won the conclave. So there's that. But also because she won the conclave, she saved every one of your lives. You should be a little more grateful that because everyone has always treated her like she was part of Sky Crew, even though, she eventually kind of stuck around with Tree Crew for such a long time. But, everyone will always associate her with the Sky People. But it's like, the fact of the matter is, she didn't have to save your life. She could have easily just saved Sky Crew or Tree Crew, but she saved so many because you are one crew. So I think that's such a befitting, like, aspect. Like I said, there's so many layers to it, like wearing the blood of her enemies, her being, a red blood in herself. So elements to this episode I wasn't expecting. Thelonious dying caught me off guard. Like, it's spoilers, but, like, there's literally I just caught a glimpse of this, and I thought that was such an interesting thing. There's literally a character that just died in the Fear the Walking Dead. It's like a main character. It's like, you literally died, like, 3 episodes into the season. This is, like, the 2nd episode of the season that Thelonious is dead? What? I wasn't expecting that. Especially because, like, your name is in the opening, too. It's like, holy shit. I mean, that's kind of the point, like, to kind of kill characters off that you kind of weren't expecting, so. Which is sad too, because, like, obviously he has his reservations about this whole situation, but he's kind of glad things kind of where they were, because he kind of was looking after Ethan. He was kind of like, he kind of got a second chance. It's kind of like, he was kind of being an uncle, but he was also given a second chance at kind of being a dad for a little bit. So that was kind of nice. Things between Abby and Marcus weren't good. Because Abby brought up a good point I thought was kind of interesting. He's like, obviously, I see you because you're a doctor. It's not, I can compartmentalize. It wasn't just because I care about you. You should, like, really? Then why were you willing to float me on the ark, but now you decide to save it? I'm like, ooh, she got you good there. But then he finally admitted, it's like, yeah, I cared about you. Like, I'm not strong enough to handle this on my own. Which, kind of ended up bringing them closer together, because, I mean, she understands why he did what he did. Like, obviously, Abby feels like she doesn't deserve to live, and she just was looking for an excuse to die, but, Marcus didn't want her to die. And I'm sure, like, in retrospect, too, she's kind of grateful for that situation, too, because of that means she can still potentially find her way to Clark, too, so. Which, with all her heart, she was certain the person on the outside was Clark, which she was right, but there was sadly no way for them to get to each other. So close yet so far, Again. So, it's good to see that they are where they are. What I also thought was kind of interesting too is when it comes to Nathan and Jackson. Jackson was all about like, oh man, I can't. He was trying to reach for Kara's gun, but he couldn't. He's like, I tried to, and he's like, no, no. Nathan's like, it's okay. You're a healer, not a fighter. I'm okay, and that's why I love you. Immediately he said that. Now in retrospect, I'm like, because we see how things change so much in the 6 years. It's like, that's going to happen to him, isn't it? Like, we didn't really get to see it, but Jackson changed. If he's still alive, he changed in that 6 years. Just because it just seemed like they were setting that up immediately by just having that line, making him very timid about that, just being a healer. Like, the fact of the matter is, I don't think anyone's going to be exactly the same after those 6 years. Especially Octavia came out, boy, and kind of was like, yo, in Rome, like, you know, for this situation, it's death. Punishment is death for what they've done. It's like, but the Romans had a way of, you know, doing this thing. If you win, you get to fight for your freedom. It's like the weapon is there. Lo and behold, who's the first one to pick it up? Kara. Cause we see her in the like hard cut, and it's like, yo, look at her, still kicking, dude. And it looks like she's probably one of like Octavia's like main guards potentially, because she's up there with like Indra and Nathan, so it seems like maybe they're kind of like the head guards or something like that, which is kind of interesting to think that she would be under that position. But I guess it's because she understands how things work now, and the fact of the matter is because it also puts in a situation, because like her fear was always kind of being on the receiving end. Now she was on the other end of things, so she kind of, I guess it kind of shifted her mindset. I mean, for one, it's survival, so obviously that kind of kicked in. But I think it's the aspect of like, rather than her having to worry about being on the other end, she made sure that everyone else around her was on the other end of the blade, so that they would be sacrificed, so that she could keep going. You know, so it's so interesting because she was willing to sacrifice so much for Sky Crew, but when it came down to it, it's like these are her people in front of her. There were moments of hesitation, but she was the first one to run out to get the weapon. So when it comes down to that survival, like I said, because of her personal experience and all she lost, I think that's kind of what motivated her, which is kind of interesting. What was also nice was when she was trying to take herself out, that like Octavia's like, you ain't getting out that easy, threw a knife and stabbed her in the hand. So also something I realized in this episode, and maybe it's just because I've never seen the shows so close together, and I don't know what it is. I did not realize that the actress who plays Nyla is the same actress who plays Dale Bozzio on iZombie. I was like, how the fuck did I not? How the fuck did I not notice that? I'm gonna go ahead and say, how did I not notice that until now? I was like, wait, what? Have I never seen iZombie and the 100 like so close together like that? I mean, to be fair, Bozzio didn't pop up until season 2, and even then, like, even though season 3 she wasn't in it a lot. Season 2 she wasn't in it a lot. She popped up quite a bit, but definitely season 3 she was only a tiny bit. But I guess it's because I'm currently watching iZombie and it's so cool. It's like, oh yeah, Bozzio, I'm seeing her face a lot more. It's like, oh wow, I didn't even recognize that at the time. That's crazy. That just kind of blew my mind. That's just kind of, I just thought that was so interesting. What I'm also interested in too is the whole Ethan situation. Like obviously after Thelonious died, and like obviously Octavia's like, okay, I'll look after you. So I'm guessing she's training him up. I guess it's kind of like, you know how the whole commanders had the whole like kids that they were training to be potential next commanders. I'm guessing that's what that situation potentially is too. So that's going to be interesting going forward. But we see that like that now that whole thing kind of makes a little more sense to a certain extent, but it is turned into more of an event that people turn. It's like, yeah, because you saw that last episode. You're like, what's up with all this like killing and everything? It's like, that seems not like the bunker we left off at the end of season 4, but it's like now we understand the context to it. It's something that keeps going on. Like obviously all the people who are there, they're going to die anyway, but you're going to have one person potential away to survive. So what's interesting is that we see Marcus at the very in the bottom. Like we see him kind of there, which begs the question, what crime did he commit that would warrant this? Like, did he try, like what did he do exactly? Because even because obviously Indra's always had a soft spot when it came to Marcus, because he's always been the more reasonable one. He's always been the one trying to reach for peace, which obviously like him and Abby, obviously didn't really, they knew that a circumstance like this would come about, but they weren't expecting it like this. Like I said, it's just so interesting because obviously you had everything going down last episode. It's like, no, Octavia, she'll help. It's like hard cut to showing this to being like, yep, Octavia isn't necessarily the same person, because for her, it's like, if we, because I think it's a great thing that they did set up this, because we get to see Octavia shift into who she needs to be for this sake, because it is that same thing of like, kind of was it just, yeah, it's just this show of like, we'll cast our humanity aside to survive for now, but it's like, is there, and that's something Clark's dealt with too, is like, is there anything more than just surviving? We've gotten so caught up in like, oh, like what's beyond that, but maybe surviving is all there is to it, and all there ever has been and ever will be, so it's just kind of an interesting thing. I'd assume the next episode would be about, a big chunk of it be about the arc. Since like the first episode, a big chunk of it was about Clark's situation, which we got like the big focus, like part of like half of it was about the past, and the other was kind of like finding them in the present day. So a big chunk of this was all about the past, kind of giving you context of why the bunker is the way it is. Because that's also a huge setup for, because obviously if you've seen the trailers, you know that eventually all worlds collide. Clark, everyone on the ark, as well as these prisoners, like all those worlds going to come together. So we'll understand like the positions that everyone under the bunker, has lived as one crew and has this one mindset that, Octavia's kind of created amongst them, which is kind of like, because there's one side of you that's kind of like, oh, it's super messed up that things have kind of become what they are, because you're treating this whole competition thing like a game, but it isn't meant to be it's become like a sport entertainment, but I don't think it's meant to be, because it is just kind of like, this is how things are settled. These people are going to die anyway. So, like I said, we saw with the Kara situation, if you prove your loyalty given enough time, I think things can shift for you. So, I don't know. Like I said, I'm just curious to see what Marcus ultimately did. Because, like I said, I feel like even Octavia has a soft spot for Marcus, too. So, once again, I still can't get over the fact that Thelonious is dead. I cannot stress how much I did not see that coming. To be fair, once again, we don't know who else died during that, too. Like the most notable ones. I mean, it looks like Gaia's still kicking. Looks like Indra is. Nathan is. Like I said, we didn't necessarily see Jackson, not unless he was there and I just didn't see him. We also didn't see Abby. I'd assume Abby's still alive too, because, Abby is the doctor and everything. So is Jackson. But like I said, I get the feeling like they're making Jackson into like, he's become a warrior in that time too. Like, he's not necessarily the same person he was. So that probably brought up some complications between him and Nathan. At least that's where my mindset is on it. So, like I said, I'm curious to see whether the entire next episode will be about the arc, because we still haven't got their side to the story. Because I do appreciate this too, because it does give us the context, because it is building up the story too, because understanding the situations that everyone is going through. The next episode might be more like Clark's episode, where it's like part of it deals with the past, and we kind of get like some montages to kind of understand where they are with everything. Might not get it at all. Ultimately, we just kind of have to wait and see how everything plays out in the next episode. I'm super excited to see what goes down. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good